All right, let's get into it. Today we're talking about Carol Kuhlthau's model of information-seeking behavior. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another theory, right? But stick with me, because this is so much more than that. Think of it like a map for a journey that, honestly, every single one of us goes on whenever we have to find information for a big project.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? Your professor hands you a huge research assignment, and poof, your mind just goes completely blank. You get that little knot in your stomach, that wave of anxiety, you're confused, maybe you're even dreading starting it. Well, guess what? That feeling, it's totally normal. In fact, it's a key part of the whole process.
And that's exactly why Kuhlthau's model is so brilliant. It's not just some boring checklist of do this, then do that. No, it looks at the whole picture. It actually talks about what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and what we're doing all at once. So yeah, let's really get into it. Okay, so our journey starts in what you could call the fog of research. I love that description. It's that initial stage where everything is just fuzzy. It's all vague and uncertain. You're stepping into the unknown. And honestly, this is the point where a lot of people walk up to a reference desk looking completely lost.
So Kuhlthau says this foggy part has 3 stages. First, you've got initiation. That's just realizing, hey, I need some information. Then comes selection, where you kind of pick a general topic. And finally, exploration, which is exactly what it sounds like. You're just looking around, trying to figure out what's even out there. And check out the emotional roller coaster here. When you start in that initiation stage, your anxiety and uncertainty are through the roof. But as you move into the exploration phase, something cool happens. Even though you still don't really have a focus, that anxiety starts to fade and you actually start getting curious. You're becoming interested. Okay, let's walk through this with an example. Picture a student, our information seeker. They're right at the beginning, the initiation stage. Their thought process is basically, ugh, I have to do research on something for this class. See how vague that is? The need is there, but there is zero direction.
Okay, so next up is the selection stage. They start to narrow it down, but just a little. A general idea starts to pop out of that fog. Maybe they think, maybe I'll look into information behavior models. It's a start for sure, but it's still this massive open-ended topic. And that brings us to exploration. Now our student is starting to do some really broad searches. You know, they're probably skimming Wikipedia, poking around in a few general library databases. They're not looking for specific articles to cite yet. They're just trying to get a feel for the landscape, just trying to get the lay of the land. Now, this exploration part is absolutely crucial. Why? Because it leads to the turning point of the whole journey. This is where the fog finally starts to lift, and a clear path forward begins to appear. It's that moment of clarity we've all been waiting for. This clarity really comes into play in the next 2 stages. You've got formulation, that's the big one, the moment you lock in a specific focus. And then comes collection, where you can finally start gathering information that's actually useful, because now you know exactly what you're looking for. And there it is, the aha moment. This is formulation. Our student takes everything they learned while exploring and nails down a real, researchable focus. They're like, okay, I got it. My focus is, how can public libraries use Kuhlthau's model to actually help students? This is huge. Uncertainty plummets and confidence starts to shoot up. You know, Carol Kuhlthau herself said it best. She called it a process of gradual refinement. And that's the key, isn't it? It's not about magically finding the perfect topic right away. It's about working your way through that uncomfortable uncertainty to slowly but surely sharpen your focus. And that confidence just keeps building during the collection stage. The user's entire mindset has done a 180. Clarity is high, confidence is high, and that nagging uncertainty is way down. Searching isn't a chore anymore. It's a mission. It's efficient, and it's totally focused. All right, so our seeker has gathered a ton of great, focused information. They're on the home stretch now, ready for the final stages of their quest, pulling it all together and wrapping things up. So this means we're at stage 6, presentation. This is where you synthesize everything into your final paper or project. And then there's one last step, stage 7, assessment. This is where you just take a minute to look back and think about the whole process, the whole journey. Now, that presentation stage, that's where the big emotional payoff is.
If the search went well, you feel amazing, right? A real sense of satisfaction, of accomplishment. But if it didn't work out, if you couldn't find what you needed, well, that leads to disappointment, frustration. The feeling at the end is tied directly to how well the journey went. And this is why that last step, assessment, is so super important. It doesn't matter if the project was a huge success or a total bust. Taking the time to think about what worked and what didn't, that builds your self-awareness. It literally makes you a smarter, more confident researcher for the next time.
So let's bring it all home. Why does this journey matter so much, especially for you, future LIS professionals? Well, it's simple. Because your job is to make a huge shift from being the person on this journey to being the guide for others. Honestly, this model is like your secret weapon for empathy. It helps you see that a patron asking a really vague question isn't trying to be difficult. They're just stuck in that early fog stage. This model helps you figure out exactly where they are on their journey so you can give them the right kind of help to get them to that amazing aha moment. It just flat out makes you a better guide. So, I want to leave you with a question. Now that you have this map, now that you understand the whole journey, including all the emotional ups and downs, how are you going to use it? How can you become a better, more empathetic, and honestly, a more empowering guide for every single person who comes to you for help? And that's a wrap on Kuhlthau's model. Hey, if you found this explainer useful, you know what to do. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into information science. Thanks so much for tuning in.